This is Zestology. It's the podcast all about energy, vitality and motivation. I'm Tony Wrighton, recording this particular ZestHacks episode of the podcast, which is kind of just me talking about some of the biohacks and healthy hacks and energy hacks that I've been trying out over the last few weeks and months. So it's just me, and recording it on my winter sun break, trying not to gloat too much, winter vitamin D break if you like. Feeling very lucky and grateful to be away, and as you can probably hear, sitting on the beach at the moment. And there is something about, I think especially for me, I'm not particularly good at unwinding, and not only can I feel myself unwinding over a couple of weeks, I've kind of got the evidence to prove it as well. Because I don't know what it is, maybe it's living in London, maybe it's just the way life is set up these days and the way we're encouraged to work and everything else. But society very much tells you to kind of try your hardest, never give up, always do your best, work harder, no pain, no gain. And for somebody who's kind of massively motivated by me, it's not actually necessarily a very helpful message. I definitely need to do less. And I've already spoken on this podcast about how one of my major goals for 2020 is just to do less. I'm sure I'll achieve more if I do that. And it's funny because on this holiday, on this winter break, I'm really doing very little. Not really working out, not really doing any work, eating lots, sleeping as much as I can, soaking up the rays, and that'll do. And it's interesting, obviously, you probably know listening to this podcast that I wear one of these Oura rings which measures your heart rate and your heart rate variability. Well, my scores have shot up over the last week or so. It's obviously my body unwinding and relaxing. The heart rate variability has gone through the roof over the last week or so. So it's interesting, isn't it, how doing less we can actually achieve more. And I think that's going to be one of my themes on Zestology for 2020. When you do less, and by the way, one of the things we've been doing is a kind of meditation challenge out here, which is just gamifying it a little bit to try and encourage each other to meditate more, and that's working as well. So all that stuff is good. But when you do less, I think it is possible to achieve more, but also it's just better for your health as well, isn't it? So that's an aside. It's not really a hack, but it's just an aside. The fact that the Oura ring, and by the way, if you want to go to tonywrighton.com/hacks, you can find out more about Oura rings and get a discount code and all the rest of it. That is definitely telling me that this break, doing very little, is working for me. Now the challenge, of course, is getting back, getting home and still doing less. And one of the things, for example, I'm not working at the moment, and I pre-recorded all the Zestology podcasts, so I don't have to do any of that either. You know, it's not normal, is it, being out here? So how do I kind of maintain this vibe when I get back? But I'll worry about that when I get back. Okay, so today on the podcast, I thought I'd look at a few coffee hacks, and if there's time, might look at some other hacks as well. But you already probably know that, one of my coffee hacks is bulletproof coffee, kind of a little bit of an extra energy kick in the morning. You can use some brain octane or some Kitoko pure C8 MCT oil, but some kind of MCT oil in the coffee in the morning, and maybe a little bit of butter or ghee or cacao butter if you're vegan, to give yourself some extra kind of good fats energy. But what about some of the other coffee hacks that I've been looking at recently? Well, one of the things that I put on my mailing list on my Zestology blog, which I send out every Monday morning recently, is this incredible Kickstarter that I came across. This is my first hack today, and it is called Coffee Jack. And I could have really done with that out here, actually. Because where I am, there's a lot of amazing things, but I'd say the general standard of coffee is average to good without being exceptional. And Coffee Jack, I think, is such a brilliant idea because the basic premise is that it's a pocket-sized barista. So it's, firstly, pollution saving, and secondly, it's an espresso maker no bigger than a cup that you can take with you. So wherever you are, or at home, you have a really good quality coffee that is like getting a coffee from a machine worth $3,500 from your local favourite coffee shop. It's quite a nice idea. So Coffee Jack, if you want to look up Coffee Jack on Kickstarter, the way they do it is micro hydraulic technology, which I don't really understand what that means, but I think what that means is it's like a coffee machine. And the second really important thing is there's no pods or filters or consumables, which is, I'll talk about that a little bit more as this podcast goes on, but these coffee pods are not particularly good for the environment. I read a very interesting article about how the pods, what do you think the pods are made of? Plastic. If you're using an espresso machine or something like that, maybe absolutely delicious, but that's a lot of disposable plastic. There's no real need for it because coffee doesn't have to come in single serve plastic, and it doesn't if you get one of these Coffee Jack machines, which by the way is only being developed at the moment. It's not even out yet. I think it's out in April. So when I say it's a hack, it's a future hack. It's something that I found that I can't wait to try out, that I think is an excellent idea. But anyway, there's no pods. It's a large espresso measure of coffee, and it is the only machine in the world to do this for its style and its size. And most importantly, what they say is it's cafe quality coffee with a creamer. You've got to have a bit of creamer, a bit of creamer on the top. That's why it's impossible to do at home unless you've got a decent coffee machine. And that's why I'm quite excited about this machine. And these guys basically said they tried to invest in portable coffee machines, but there's nothing really out there that is a portable coffee machine like this at the moment. They just don't really work. And the second thing they wanted to do is they wanted to help save the environment. So make really, really good coffee that doesn't involve pods. So that's my first hack today. I give a ZestHacks rating of 4 out of 5. So if you go to their Kickstarter, I think you can basically invest in one because you can't buy it yet, but if you can kind of invest, I don't know, $80, $90 or something like that, and then you get it in April. So if you do, let me know. The second one's on a very similar theme. And again, it's something I've not tried yet, so I'm really interested to know if someone has tried it, and that's mainly the reason that I'm talking about it. And that is, a little while back, I stayed somewhere where there was a Nespresso coffee machine and had the odd coffee. I know, with the disposable pods, I know. Not good for the environment. And it always feels like it should be a bit of a treat, doesn't it? An espresso coffee machine, there's the creamer from the coffee is off the scale. It's lovely the way it comes out, it smells good, it's easy, you put in a pod and you press a button. But I noticed something interesting and unusual happening. And that is that, I mean, you probably know, listening to this podcast, that I have histamine intolerance. So that means I get kind of slight allergy symptoms from certain foods and even just stress or something else. It's easily alleviated, and I've written a lot more on this at histamineintolerance.net. Some of the nicest foods in the world are high histamine, which is a source of massive frustration, including chocolate, avocado, and strawberries. But that's just a different story. I'll get over that. I'll get over it at some point. But one of the things that I noticed from when I was staying in this room with the Nespresso coffee machine was that after having an espresso coffee, the allergy symptoms, the histamine symptoms, especially for me, I mean, I get loads of different symptoms, and I've become quite finely attuned to it running this website. I'm really enjoying it. It's like a real passion project because I've met so many other people who are suffering from the same thing. But I would get instantly blocked up and have a slightly kind of dry throat from having these Nespresso coffee pods. Had a little bit of a look online and found a few people who said something similar, not loads, but some. And I wondered whether it is the plastic in the coffee pods getting heated to very high temperatures. You know, one of the really good hacks on this podcast is not particularly complex, but it is just to invest in very, very good coffee. My favourite coffee is Bulletproof coffee. I know that it's kind of, it's organic beans and they test them for mould and they filter them loads of times and they only get them from the best farmers and all the rest of it. There's another coffee that people have told me about on the Histamine Intolerance Instagram page, which is called Purity Coffee, which I've not tried, but I'd very much like to try. But what if some of our coffee was low quality and not making us feel at our best? Perhaps I'm more finely attuned to it because of the histamine issue. But if you have a load of, let's say, average coffee in a plastic pod, and that plastic is getting heated to very high temperatures, so a little bit of the plastic's going into the coffee, maybe that would not make you feel particularly good. It's a theory, anyway. But you might want to look into that and notice how you feel when you have coffee out of a pod. Quite apart from how the environment feels, which is not great. How do you feel? Anyway, that's not the hack. The hack is that I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's really worrying, isn't it, how Facebook, Instagram and Google almost seem to know what you're thinking. But I've been thinking about this pod issue quite a lot, and I wrote a blog about it on the histamineintolerance.net site. And then Instagram showed me an advert which could have been literally curated and created just for me. And it is metal pods, exactly the same as a pod that you'd find in these coffee machines, that you can fill with your own coffee. And if you do it right, and apparently you get the right quantities, it'll make you a coffee just like you would from one of these plastic pods. Except there's no waste and you can use your own coffee, so it's a win-win situation. Now again, I've not tried it, so I'd love to know if you have. But if that was to actually work, I mean, firstly, I don't have one of the machines, and secondly, I don't have one of the metal pods, so I need to invest in both if I'm going to try it out. But if you've got one of these machines, maybe you'd like to buy that metal pod and try it out, because then you could use your purity coffee or your bulletproof coffee or whatever coffee you wanted to use, and it would save you loads of money. Because I think per pod it works out about between 30 and 40p a cup. But if you were to buy that coffee, just ground coffee or beans coffee, it'd probably be a few pence a cup. If that was to work out, I'd give that a ZestHacks rating of 5 out of 5. But as I say, I haven't tried it out. So I'd love you to let me know. Let me know if you've tried it and if you think it works. The one hack that I would say is go for good coffee and be aware of how you feel after drinking a really pure, quality sourced coffee as opposed to a cheap coffee that you bought in a service station or from a plastic pod. See what the difference is. See how you feel, because you might notice that you feel very different. I know that maybe, doing this podcast and kind of thinking so much about this stuff, I might well be the canary in the coal mine, but that's okay. I'm happy to try this stuff out and think about this stuff so you don't have to. I certainly think, in general speaking, the things that you consume, if they can be organic, purely sourced, not having a load of chemicals in them, which is really important, by the way, especially for decaf, which tends to have more chemicals in it than normal coffee, because of the way that they rinse the caffeine out of it. The more you can go for kind of mold-free, chemical-free coffee, the rule is the better you'll feel. Okay, the wind's just started to get up a bit, so I hope it's not too windy. Maybe I'm kind of sitting in a deserted shack on the beach, and it's quite nice because there's no one nearby, but there is a little bit of wind, so I hope it's not too windy. Let's move from coffee hacks to meditation hacks then. And something that I've mentioned before on this podcast, but I'm finding very, very helpful at the moment, is I told you that we were doing this kind of meditation challenge for the new year. And you might remember that I mentioned Sam Harris's Waking Up meditation app about a year ago. I'm still using it, which is quite something because it's not actually that cheap. I think it's about £7.50 or probably about $10 a month. So over the course of a year, that's $100, 75, 90 quid or whatever it might be. It's quite an investment. But I like it so much. He's got a very measured, considered style. You can do 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And it gets me thinking about meditation and consciousness in a way that other apps and other meditation styles don't. If I'm just doing a transcendental meditation, which, by the way, I'm going to do a meditation after I record this podcast here on the beach. It's not too bad, is it? His style of getting you to think very deeply about consciousness is not only useful in the moment, but it's just nice in general to think about consciousness and how we're all connected and so on. So the app is called Waking Up, and you first do a 50-day program. So there's 50 meditations in a row, and then there's a daily meditation. So I finished the 50 days ages ago. I'm just doing the daily meditation now. And do you know what? It's made a big difference. Sometimes it's just easier to put a meditation program on. It feels, especially if your mind's all over the place, it's easier to ease into it when you've got a program on your phone. And it's very simple. It introduces the listener to actually lots of different types of meditation. And each day, as I say, is 10 or 20 minutes. I normally just do 10 minutes. I'd love to do 20, but I normally do 10. And they have recently introduced that 20-minute meditation as well. I give it a ZestHacks rating of 4.5 out of 5. Sam Harris's Waking Up app. There's also Dan Harris's 10% Happier meditation app as well. And I really like Emily Fletcher's Ziva meditation. She's been a guest on Zestology as well. But this is just something that's worked for me. So yeah, it's a good hack. And at the start of this year, I know we're a few weeks into the year now, but at the start of this year, it feels like renewing our focus on switching off and doing less. As I've already said, it's such a priority. Doing less to achieve more. Meditating on a regular basis is definitely part of that. And any help you can get, much appreciated. Just interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that it is brought to you by Sunlighten Saunas. And studies have shown, scientific studies have shown, that not only do infrared saunas help with natural pain relief during treatment, but even after months of ending a sauna treatment, the pain is still significantly lower. Did you need more reasons to try a sauna, and specifically a Sunlighten sauna? I mean, if you need one more reason, I do have Netflix in there too. But perhaps that's a slightly shallow reason compared to the fact that your pain relief could be gone, or your pain could be relieved months after ending a sauna treatment. Check out Sunlighten Saunas, mention Zestology for £200, $200 off, and now back to the podcast. Okay, I've just moved in from the beach a little bit. I'm now in this kind of deserted shack, but I'm in the shade, so it's a little bit cooler, and hopefully it's a little bit less windy as well, and you can hear me a little bit better. Time for my next brain hack on this ZestHacks podcast. I first used the Muse meditation brain sensing headband about 5 years ago, and Dr. Stephen Simpson and I actually recorded a podcast with him wearing it, and we kind of did a meditation together. It's a great idea, and it's described as a personal meditation assistant. So if we're looking to do less and we're looking to meditate more in the new year, what about your own personal meditation assistant, the Muse headband? The idea is that you put the headband on, and then the assistant is on your phone, and it gently guides you into a different place. All the while, there are some very sophisticated EEG sensors attached to your forehead and the back of your head and around the side of your ear as well that sense what's going on. It's worth recording this podcast now and talking about the Muse headband now, because they've actually just brought out a kind of updated bit of hardware. They brought out a new headband just recently, which I think you can take on the go. The idea is that you can travel with it, helps you on the go. Obviously still syncs up with your assistant or your phone at the same time. And you put on the Muse headband, you start the app, you close your eyes, you hear changing sounds of weather based on the real-time state of your brain, which is quite clever, because whatever type of weather you're listening to is relaxing because it's natural sounds, but you're also getting direct feedback on what your brain's doing at that time. And it allows you to obtain a deeper sense of focus and motivates you to build a highly rewarding practice. And I think the idea behind gamifying meditation in whatever way is actually quite a good one. I mean, us just doing this meditation challenge in January, certainly Dr. Robert Cialdini used to talk about the law of commitment. When you commit with someone else to doing something, you're more likely to do it, and you're more likely to keep doing it if you've made a public commitment to doing it. And that's what we've done by kind of doing this meditation challenge. We set up a WhatsApp group, so every day we do a meditation, we put in the WhatsApp group how many minutes we've meditated for. So it seems to be working quite well. If you like, it's gamifying our meditation practice, which probably isn't the ultimate goal of meditation, to compete against someone else, but it seems to be working. And the Muse headband is another one that will do that. As a Zestology Zest hack, I will give it 3.5 out of 5. Why am I not giving it more than 3.5 out of 5? I suppose because I don't use it every day. I have got one, I just don't use it every day. It's not one of my absolute go-tos, and that's probably because it's not quite as... That might be why they brought the new Muse headband out, because you can use it out and about a lot easier. I mean, if you were to wear the Muse headband that I've got out and about, you would look a bit silly. You want to be doing it in the privacy of your own home. But yeah, I don't use it every day, and that's why I haven't given it a higher rating. But it's still good. And in the spirit of doing less and achieving more and switching off more in 2020 and listening to our bodies and just relaxing, I do like the Muse. On a similar but slightly different theme, I've mentioned the human charger a few times on this podcast, and that's the next Zest hack today. It was great to reconnect with the crew at Human Charger in London a few months ago at the Health Optimisation Summit. They're a Finnish company. I first met them in America, and they created this device which looks like, you remember the old iPod Nanos? Basically looks like that. And it's got one big button in the middle and 2 small earbuds, and you put the earbuds into your ears and you press the big button in the middle, and it shines light, a very specific frequency of light, into your ears. I know, I mean, a really unusual idea, really interesting idea actually. It's quite a crazy device, I suppose. Shines light through your ears. They sold out in a few hours at the Health Optimisation Summit. Didn't take them long to get rid of all their gear. In fact, I think because the summit was 2 days, and definitely at the start of the second day, they didn't have any left. So they really got a lot of attention there. And I've been in touch with them since the summit because it was nice to see them again. And they've launched their new product as well. You can buy it on Indiegogo, I think. It's either already out or it's coming out very shortly. If you look up Human Charger and Indiegogo, and they call it Advanced Light Stimulation Therapy. And they're absolutely adamant that this light therapy works. And why is this a new one? Because I think what it does is it combines sound and light and a built-in microphone as well, so you can actually have the earbuds in and you can talk on the phone or listen to your favourite music or podcasts during your bright light sessions. So you can either meditate with it or you can just have it out and about and be getting on with the rest of your stuff through the day. So it's really a set of headphones for your iPhone that also shines this advanced light therapy into your ears. Nice concept. The Human Charger. The other excellent thing about the Human Charger, I just realised this place where I'm standing, I'm getting absolutely eaten alive. Oh dear. I've got loads of mosquito bites. Oh dear. This is not what I wanted. I've hardly been bitten on this holiday either. I've just come into this kind of beach shack, this deserted beach shack, and it's riddled with mozzies. Oh, that's a shame. By the way, the low histamine diet really helps with the next time you go on holiday somewhere where you get bitten a lot. Eat low histamine, you'll find that the bites come up, you're still going to get bitten, but they don't stay up, they go down very quickly. God, there's loads of them. Right, might be time for me to abort this podcast quite quickly. Look, just finish on the Human Charger. The other really good thing about the Human Charger is you can use it for jet lag, and I have used it for jet lag before. I've used it going west and east, and it did mitigate the effects of jet lag by, I think, about 50%. In fact, going west, it was particularly helpful. West is normally a little bit easier, but yeah, if you travel a lot, then you might want to look into the Human Charger too. What they have is they have an app where you put in your flight code, so your flight number, and then it works out exactly when you should be using the Human Charger, and you use it, I think, twice on the flight and twice when you get off. So it's a bit weird because you get off and let's say, I don't know, you're in America or something, you go out for dinner, you have to put your earphones in halfway, which is a little bit weird, but if it helps with jet lag, why not? If they could invent an app that helps with baby jet lag, I would be interested, as that's been quite an issue for us on this holiday. But I give the Human Charger 3.5 on this ZestHacks podcast as well. 3.5. ZestHacks rating out of 5. I don't give it more because, again, I don't use it all the time, but I do like it, and I really enjoy kind of testing out these different gadgets. For me, the most effective meditation app has been Sam Harris's app. That's the one that's really stuck with me. But all of these things, I encourage you to play around with it, see what works, and use it as much as you can. I'm going to leave it there at the end of this podcast because, oh no, there are loads of them. I'm getting bitten so much. Oh no, there's absolutely loads of them. I've been bitten all over the place. There's me talking about how if you eat a low histamine diet, it's going to be a lot better. I'm going to be itching for the next couple of hours. But hopefully it wasn't so windy. I've stepped down onto the beach now, so it might be more windy. But look, thanks for listening to this ZestHacks podcast. I'm Tony Wrighton, bitten all over my face, my left knuckle, on my knuckle on my finger, all over my ankle and my feet, all in the name of providing you with a Zestology podcast. But I do enjoy doing these ZestHacks podcasts, and it's kind of just trying stuff out. It's kind of part biohacking, part health tech, but also part kind of switching off and kind of doing what works and maintaining a sense of balance, which I'm really keen towards working more towards in 2020. If you would like to get more of the kind of hacks that I've been talking about in this podcast in advance, then you can head to tonywrighton.com and sign up for my 3 Zesty Things newsletter, which comes every Monday morning. And I talk about all this stuff then and anything that's on my mind. And thank you to Sunlight and Saunas, who are bringing you this podcast. I mentioned in a previous episode of ZestHacks, and once I get back from this particular trip, I'll definitely be using the Sunlight and Sauna to recreate the magic, or at least the warmth, if not the magic. In fact, I've been listening to a few podcasts about the power of saunas and how incredible it is to detox, in particular from an infrared sauna. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into that because I know that it helps my detox and my sleep as well. So thanks to Sunlight and Saunas. Remember to mention Zestology if you get in touch with them. And it's just an amazing bit of kit. It's particularly nice in the Northern Hemisphere winter, which we're in right now, and I highly recommend it. Right, I'm really not joking. I've been bitten a lot, so I'm going to have to go. Thanks for listening. See you next time.